Captain Zara Blackwood ESS Relentless, her Phi. Guess they find our railguns cute, Blackwood muttered under her breath to Commander Marcus Wong, who was FO. Maybe. The Relentless was. Lieutenant Rodriguez, sit. Blackwood straightened in her chair, her coffee mug forgotten in her hand. She could feel her pulse quicken. Show me. The view screen flickered to life, and what appeared made her stomach drop. 7 ships emerged from the blackness of space, sleek and alien in design. They were beautiful in the way that venomous creatures often were, graceful, deadly. Their hulls shimmered with an iridescent material that Blackwood couldn't help herself. Someone's compensat. The largest of the ships alone was 3 times the size of the Relentless. Well, yeah. Rodriguez called, "Oh, Black." The screen flashed, and an alien appeared. Tall, regal. Its skin the same iridescent sheen as the ships they rode in on. For eyes, perfectly symmetrical, gazed down at her from a face that could have been sculpted to represent the pinnacle of evolutionary superiority. "Greetings, primitive vessel," the alien began, its voice dripping with that same smug superiority that Blackwood had learned to hate. "I am High Commander Vexer of the Kazari Empire. We have come to grace your sector with our presence and assess your..." Blackwood could barely hold back the snicker that threatened to escape. Primitive, they always started with that word. It was like a line from the playbook of every species that Captain Zara Blackwood of Earth's Relentless, friends? Vexer made a dismissive gesture. "These are merely a demonstration of our might. Our sensors indicate that your vessel still employs kinetic." "Oh no, they're quite accurate," Blackwood replied, smiling wide. "We humans are quite stubborn when it comes to our bang-bang stick-boom-boom too." Vexer blinked, clearly thrown off by her tone, his 4 eyes dancing in a strange, unsynchronized rhythm. Behind her, Wong couldn't contain the laughter any longer, letting. Vexer recovered quickly, his tone shifting to something more condescending. "Perhaps we should meet in person to discuss your SP." "Sounds delightful," Blackwood replied. "Ever heard the saying, calm?" Vexer's face shifted into an unreadable expression, his 4 eyes narrowing. "I am not familiar with this saying." Blackwood smiled, but it wasn't pleasant. "Don't worry about it. You'll understand soon enough. The Kazari Empire's eternal radiance, W. Our shields render any primitive kinetic weapons completely obsolete," Vexer explained, his voice taking on a tone that could only be discreet. Wong stood beside Blackwood, maintaining an air of perfect disinterest. "Fascinating," he said flatly, though his words barely registered in his. Vexer manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on the Kazari ship surrounded by shimmering energy fields. "Our multiphasic barrier system can detect incoming projectiles and generate a counter-frequent." Blackwood raised an eye. "A crude analogy," Vexer said, waving a forearm, "but essentially..." Blackwood's eyes glinted with mischief. "I see. So you think you..." Vexer smiled, showing too many teeth. "It's adorable that your species still insists on using such." Blackwood leaned forward, her voice soft but dangerous. "You ever heard of human nature, Vexer?" The conversation continued as Vexer explained how the Kazari Empire would elevate humanity by force, if necessary. Blackwood listened with an air of feigned politeness, all the while knowing exactly what the Kazari had missed. What they didn't know would be they. Vexer continued, his tone growing sharper. "This is not a negotiation, Captain. We've analyzed your fleet. Your weapons are centuries behind." Blackwood shared a look with Wong that spoke volumes, none of it polite. She could practically hear the expletives they were both thinking. She finally spoke, her voice cool. "And I assume you've taken our UX." Vexer froze, his 4 eyes narrowing. Wong's voice was low. "I think they've overlooked a few things. We've kept a few tricks up our sleeve," Blackwood said with a grin that sent a chill through the room. "Tell me, Vexer, how familiar are you with the oscillation matrix?" The tension reached its peak as Vexer realized his shields were vulnerable. Blackwood's crew had known for centuries that energy shields had one major flaw: they couldn't handle fast-moving physical objects. When the Relentless and her primitive didn't. The clock ticked down. The battle was coming. When the Kazari fleet launched their first plasma bolts, Blackwood watched the spectacle with an eerie calm. It was all P. Should I start screaming in terror now, Captain? Lieutenant Commander Rex Chin's voice. Maintain protocol, Lieutenant, Blackwood replied. Remember your training. Proper terror requires at least 3 enemy shots. The Kazari ships, confident in their superiority, unleashed everything they had. The Relentless did nothing to do. They probably expected more from us, Wong observed. They must think our maneuvers are completely random. Blackwood allowed herself a small, dang. What the Kazari never considered was that humanity's primitive weapons were still deadly. Blackwood's fleet had intentionally positioned themselves to take advantage of a small but critical flaw in, and when the first railgun shot hit, the result. Vexor's ship was the first to feel the impact. The shield that had once been invincible cracked like a cheap wine glass, unable to stop a bullet moving at relativistic. The battle. Status? Blackwood. Wong checked his datapad. Their shields are trying to adapt, but it's too late. They can't handle kinetic projectiles. They're scrambling. Well, Blackwood said, leaning back in her chair, looks like the Kazari Empire just learned a very impo. The surviving Kazari ships tried to retreat, but their formation was in disarray. The Relentless and, please cease fire, the Kazari officer stammered. We miscalculated. Blackwood could hear Wong chuckling. Miscalculated? That's one way to put I. Later, as the remaining Kazari ships limped away, Blackwood sat back in her chair, reviewing the diplomatic messages flooding in from the. Well, she said, eyes glinting. Seems like our primitive technologue. Wong smiled, his eyes sparkling. I think the rest of the galaxy might be